everyone, and welcome to another episode of Time Out with Derek and Joe. For Joe Aslina, I am Derek Cano. Thank you, as always, for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us. Just a reminder, you can follow us on Facebook. If I'm sure a lot of you do, Time Out Derek and Joe. We're also on YouTube. You can find our videos on YouTube. Time Out Derek and Joe, and as always, all podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, Google, you name it, we're there. So, Joe, hope you had a Merry Christmas. We're diving into a new episode. What do we got lined up?
Yes, yeah. Hope everybody had a Merry Christmas. You and Lindsay there too. Hope everybody had a safe one too. And yeah, we're gonna come right out of the break here, firing on all cylinders. We're gonna be doing some NFL odds, what we think about percentage wise of what the topic we're gonna cover. We're gonna do some baseball because some things are happening as we both figured was gonna take place. Two big things happen in the Major League Baseball. We'll do some college basketball, and we're also going to do some over unders, as Derek loves the over under game. So we're gonna accomplish a lot of things in this episode, Derek.
Yep. So what did we do last time? I think it was buy and sell, and toss up was the other. So these are our two games this time around. We're calling it first game. We're calling what are the odds? So what are the odds is going to be for anyone who can't figure that one out. We're going to throw out a subject, and we're just going to give what we think the odds of that thing happening are. And obviously 100%, if we give it 100%, then we obviously think it's going to happen. If we give it 0%, then we definitely think it's not going to happen. But first topic for what are the odds? So and this is an interesting place to start, but I started to go with it. Odds that the Washington football team loses their third straight game and misses the playoffs. Joe, obviously we're about to go into week 17 of the NFL, and the NFC East is not looking great. It's official that they will have a representative going in at under 500. But currently Washington leads the division. What do you think, Joe? What are the odds that they lose their third straight game and miss out on the playoffs? They have so many chances to clinch it, and they haven't done it.
Well, Derek, they're playing the Eagles. So I thought of that and I said, you know what? If I didn't look at the schedule, maybe I would have said no. But I have them at 85%. It's in Philly. Washington started the season with a win against the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles looked horrible yesterday for most of the game. Doug Peterson needs to be fired. He's going to be on the show pretty soon, I think. I mean, Dallas is still alive. What are we talking about that? If Dallas wins, that's one of the ways Washington loses out, right?
Everyone is still in except for the Eagles. Right. Washington only needs a win, and they win the East. But if they lose to the Eagles, then it's pretty simple. It's whoever wins the Dallas and Giants game, which is played in the Meadowlands this Sunday. So obviously 85%, you think that
I think they do it.
You think they win the game.
I think Alex Smith healthy. That's another thing. I think about Alex Smith real quick. I'll let you get to your pick in a minute, but I just think the defense is so good, and the Eagles haven't proven to me that they can win consistently, or win two in a row, or they haven't won last week, so it's really not two in a row anyway. But either way, yes, I have Washington at 85% for winning the division and beating the Eagles handily, I must say.
I don't think Washington's that good, right? I don't think either of us think they're that good, but I think they might be the most balanced in the division. The Giants kind of have been good defensively, but they struggle scoring. Opposite for the Cowboys. I mean, they don't put up huge numbers since Dak dropped out, but the defense has been pretty bad, although they played pretty well against the Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. Although if you talk to Eagles fans, that's probably more play calling. But I think Washington, now that Gibson is back healthy, he was out for a couple weeks. If Alex Smith can play this week, hopefully, Terry McLaurin can come back, their top receiver. I think they win the game. I say I put it at actually 95% because my thinking was the Eagles are out of it. Do they want the Cowboys getting in? Do they want potentially the Giants getting in? If there were one team that Eagles and Eagles fans would want in, it would be the Redskins Washington, because they don't really, have that much of a hate towards them, but they definitely don't want Dallas in or the Giants. I mean, I'm sure they won't throw the game, but they might do just about everything to let Washington win, in my opinion. So
good point. They might not start guys. They might play subs.
Injuries. You might see a lot of injuries come out. So I definitely think Washington. So that'll put them at 7-9 and winning the division, and probably hosting someone like Tampa Bay, the Buccaneers, something like that. Yeah. I think that's safe to say. So we'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, and Derek, this is a good topic. I thought the odds of the Colts winning the division in Week 17. What do you think about that? As we look here, they're home against Jacksonville, who has now secured themselves a spot of getting Trevor Lawrence. We can say that right now. The Jets are done. Good job, New York. Sam Darnold's job is safe for now.
Number 2.
Right. But I don't know. I mean, I'll leave it at this, and then you have the floor. The Colts aren't playing good football, and they made me mad yesterday by losing to the Steelers.
Well, yeah, they kind of blew it. They had the chance to pretty much clinch. But again, I think they're pretty balanced. At least you have someone like Phillip Rivers leading them finally, who they haven't really had a top QB since Luck went out. Jonathan Taylor has been very good at running back, but it's really been their defense, right? They have one of the best defenses in the league. Now, they need, in order to, the question was to win the division, right? So odds they win the division, I think probably around 20%, because the Titans have the tiebreaker right now over the Colts. They're both 10-5. So Tennessee would have to lose at Houston, who is having their own down year, especially coming off the thrashing that they just were handed by the Green Bay Packers. I think Henry comes out there, has a dominant game, and I think they close it out. What do you think, Joe? And if you don't have them winning the division, we think that they even make the playoffs at all? Do they have any shot at that?
Well, I'm actually going to say that I have them not winning the division because I have them at 45%. I thought about it, and the more I thought about it, Tennessee has played consistently better. The Colts defense is really good, but I think Tennessee has more weapons on offense.
Mm-hmm.
A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry's a beast, Jono Smith, the tight end.
Yeah.
They just have these guys that are really good. Maybe they get in as a wild card, I guess, but I don't know what all the shape of the division. I didn't look at that totally.
Yeah, we're gonna run through it when we get to the North Division, which is gonna have something to say about it a little later. So, a low percentage for the Colts?
I have about 40. Yeah, I don't think they're going to win the division. You know what? Jacksonville might beat them. Watch out for Jacksonville. They're in a little hot streak now. You got 2 wins.
Oh no, that's Jets. The Jacksonville's they're struggling.
Right. No, they don't want to win, right? They don't even want to win now. So the Colts win, but is it going to matter? Is it going to matter for Indianapolis? They need help. They really need help in some way, right? That's the
so
big thing.
I believe what it is. If so long as they win, there's actually a ton of teams that are 10-5. They are currently 10-5 and out. One of these teams is going to be left out. Cleveland Browns are 10-5. The Ravens are 10-5. The Dolphins are 10-5. The Titans are 10-5. So one of those are going to be left out, and we're pretty much going to run through that as we go here. But the Colts would need technically a win and one of those teams to lose, which would be, again, the Titans, Ravens, Browns, Dolphins. Any of those lose, Colts are in. But they are the only team that does not control their own destiny in the AFC. The rest of the teams are obviously eliminated. So our next odds maker for what are the odds? We're going to jump over to baseball, something that actually just happened today. I don't think it's technically been pushed through yet, so maybe there are some kinks at the end that this doesn't get through before this comes out. But as of now, Blake Snell, Joe, who is the 2018, I believe, Cy Young winner for the Tampa Bay Rays, and has been their stud for a long time now. He has been he's been traded to the San Diego Padres. We're going to get into who for, I'm sure. But our odds are, will Blake Snell become a 20-game winner again as a member of the San Diego Padres? Now, Blake Snell, besides 2018, he had 21 wins. Other than that, no more than 6. Obviously, the shortened year this year, he only had 4. But do we think he gets back to that Cy Young level? What are the odds that he potentially becomes a 20-game winner again?
Oh, this is a tough one. I first of all, I think, and I want to make this point clear, they're still not better than the Dodgers. This is a great move. I don't want to underrate the move. It's a great move. But the Dodgers are one more pitcher away, and I'm not going to say Trevor Bauer. They're one more difference-making pitcher away from becoming still better than what the Padres put out there on the field. It's just the bottom line. The Dodgers are too talented. But this is a great move for San Diego in a lot of different facets, as we'll get into during a baseball show, probably coming up in the next couple months. But no, I think he doesn't win 20 games because I don't think it's tough to switch leagues. And even though some say the National League might be the weaker league, the National League still has really good teams. The Braves showed how good they were getting to almost the World Series. They say that they faced the Dodgers 18, 19 times on a regular year. You have these teams that are going to hit. So, and the Padres still aren't there offensively yet. They need another piece or two. So I don't think Blake Snell wins 20 games. And I do think they gave up a lot to get him, to tell you the truth. But what do you have to say about Blake Snell? And I have it at around 50%, just to be nice.
That's funny because I kind of copped out too, and I was gonna put 50 because that's up in the air. I'll bump it down. I'll bump it down to 49%. But if I think about where he was and where he's going to be going, he was in a division with the Blue Jays and the Yankees and the Red Sox when they were playing well. And now, no, there's not really. The Giants, although scored a lot of runs this year, the Diamondbacks might be a little down, but everyone else, the Rockies always hit. It's really that obviously the Dodgers. It's going to come down to, you think about the Rays, and they're really more of an inconsistent hitting team, you would say, at least compared to where he's going, the Padres, who got hitting all over the field now. Um, and I think there's a chance, but I don't know that Blake Snell's really uh, that dominant of a pitcher that we saw in 2018. I think he'll be good for you know, 12 to 15 wins for them pretty consistently. Um, but I mean, that staff now with they have Clevenger there, Dilson Lamet, who was really their best pitcher, um, and and not even to mention some people like Zach Davies and you know, and then they have Mackenzie Gore coming up from uh, as one of the top prospects. Now, I don't know if you wrote down about any of these guys that they're trading away. So um, it's all top prospects. Luis Patino is a right-handed pitcher who's number 3, and these are all according to MLB.com. He's number 3 prospect in on the for the San Diego Padres. Blake Hunt is the number 7 prospect, and Blake Hunt is the number 14 prospect. He's a catcher. And then Cole Wilcox is the number 7 prospect, a pitcher as well. All guys who haven't, Hunt and Wilcox haven't seen too much in terms of the minor leagues even yet. And then Francisco Mejia, who's an interesting name, who was a top prospect for the Indians for many years, but really hasn't had his breakout yet. But you said you think that was too much of a haul for someone like Blake Snell?
The only reason I say this is because Tampa is going to flip either Hunt, who's a catcher. They have Zunino. Now they're getting Mejia. I think Hunt goes in a trade. He's 22 years old. Somebody's going to covet him. And then 21-year-old Cole Wilcox, who was just drafted in 2020.
Yeah.
Tampa, listen, we said it before. Eric Neander is a heck of a front office guy to do something with this team. And I mean, these players are young enough. Mejia, maybe not so much. Maybe Mejia stays with the Rays, but I will not be shocked if Wilcox or Blake Hunt doesn't get traded. In my opinion, they're now looking maybe to get Yu Darvish, the Padres.
Yeah.
That's out there, and it's really not even a rumor now. It sounds like it's almost done. It sounds like the I's need to be dotted and the T's need to be crossed, right, if you will. But Tampa gives up Morton and Snell. Don't you think it's a little obvious what they're going to try to do now? They're going to try to get a pitcher, and I don't know. I mean, if you're a team that needs a catcher or young players, I mean, I don't know. I won't be shocked. I won't be surprised.
Yeah, and well, that's something that kind of slipped my mind, but you kind of reminded me. I guess it kind of makes you wonder, what are the Rays doing? You know, they were right on the cusp of winning a World Series, playing one of the better teams in recent memory in the Dodgers.
Yeah. They don't miss Derek, though.
Obviously. Yeah, I mean, they still got stuff there. Obviously, you would think someone like Glasnow might jump to the number 1, but do they think highly of people like, you know, Ryan Yarbrough, who they think maybe they'll start him? Getting rid of Charlie Morton, now Blake Snell, not really. I mean, Luis Patino, maybe they're pretty high on him. He was their number 3 prospect, so maybe they think he's on the cusp of really joining the rotation. But I think you said it. They must have some plan to bring in some young guy who's not worth too much. Or now you would have to think they're probably dumping Snell before they have to pay him big money. So
they are $39 million.
Yeah. So
Castillo and Sonny Gray are 2 names to watch out for. I think they've been talked about, And that
To the
could be
Rays.
one of the targets for the Rays. Yeah, that could be a Ray target right now, I guess. I mean, it makes sense. Pitchers that are established, you know. But yeah, we'll see, and I'll be excited to talk about that. Like I said, on our hot stove shows coming up to keep us warm in January and February. So, Derek, we're gonna go to the NBA, and now we're almost a week and a half in, going to our second week, and we have a question here about the Lakers. What are the odds that Los Angeles Lakers repeat as NBA champions? And also, what does the schedule look like? And who's our favorites besides if we don't have the Lakers?
So yeah, obviously the season, I don't know if you got to see, they had their huge ring ceremony and they ended up losing that night to the Los Angeles Clippers. And then they've gone out and trounced the Mavericks and the Timberwolves, who should be at the bottom of the league. It's interesting. Obviously they're going to be led by LeBron and Anthony Davis. There's no doubt about that. But they brought in some interesting pieces. Dennis Schroeder, who has been a six-man for a long time now for the Thunder, who have really given up and are starting over. They have 1,000 draft picks for the next few years. But Dennis Schroeder is going to start now at point guard. They brought in Marc Gasol, who is someone who's had a ton of time, who actually got drafted by the Lakers and then shipped out to Memphis for his brother. Coincidentally, that was when Pau Gasol went over to the Lakers. Montrezl Harrell as well. He's someone who was the sixth man of the year last year, and he's gonna. I think he technically is off the bench, but he plays more minutes than Marc Gasol is. Are they the favorite? And the chance that they repeat, I would say about 30%. I think it'll be difficult to. It's difficult to just take all these new pieces and just say, okay, come together and you're supposed to win a championship. They did it last year with a lot of rental guys, Rondo and Dwight Howard. I'd be interested to see if they could do it again. I'm really high on the Bucks this year. I think this might be their year. I think they made a huge move, bringing in Drew Holiday, who's going to be able to be kind of that number 2A. They have Chris Middleton there as well, to pair with Giannis, who is obviously the superstar. And I'd really like to see, because there's already questions now as to if he needs another big name there in order for him to win. But Giannis is just an amazingly talented player. Probably going to go down as one of the best of all time when it's all said and done. And I really think that they can play well with Anthony Davis or against Anthony Davis and LeBron James. Another name to look out for is the Brooklyn Nets. They look very good. We're actually going to talk about them in a bit, but they look very good behind Kevin Durant, who was out for a few months, and Kyrie Irving. But what are your thoughts, Joe? Do you think that the Lakers repeat, or is that something that's not in the stars?
Well, I like your point about Schroeder. He's a really good player. He's an underrated guy. He's a guy probably in a lot of fantasy leagues. People don't think about him, but he's a guy that's going to score points. No, I don't think they're gonna. I think LeBron either gets hurt or he just causes too much drama there. I think stuff starts unraveling for them a little bit. Davis has a big ego. I don't know. Yeah. It doesn't work sometimes. And I just feel that I've never been a Laker fan, so maybe this is a little bias coming out, but I kind of hope they don't repeat. When I saw this at first, I was like, I kind of hope they don't repeat. I got it at 60%, though. I got a little higher just to maybe hedge myself a little, give them 10 more percent. But no, I think the East could be in the finals this year. I mean, as in like they could take it home in the finals. The Bucks are ridiculous. I thought losing Bledsoe might hurt a little bit, but Chris Middleton's averaging like 24 a game, I think it is. Um, the Heat are interesting to watch. Jimmy Butler's going nowhere. That Bam Adebayo stays healthy. Tyler Hero's fun to watch. I watched him on Christmas a little bit. He's fun to watch. Also got him in your league, by the way. The Clippers and the Nets are also in my LA Clippers and Nets are definitely a team to watch. They're the 4, but somehow I think that team out in Portland though with McCollum and Lillard, like that's a really interesting combo. And shout out to CJ McCollum, who's a Lehigh grad and famously beating Duke in the one Final Four. I just those 4 are on my radar. I don't want to make a pick now, but if I would have to, with a gun to my head, I would almost say I wonder if the Nets don't do something big here, like Durant, Irving. It's kind of lining up for them to be right there in the end. So I'll go with New Jersey. Let's see if I change in a couple months. So Derek, we're gonna do our last odds maker. Hit me with it, Derek. What do we got for number 5?
What are the odds, Joe? So we did talk in a previous episode about how strong the Big Ten is in college basketball this year, and neither of these games came up. But what are the odds that either Rutgers or Northwestern wins the Big Ten? Now, just to say the reason why we're saying this, because Northwestern is currently leading the Big Ten at 3-0, 6-1 overall. Rutgers is 2-1, but they are also 6-1 overall. Before you jump in, Joe, just take a listen to this Big Ten top 25. Number 25 is Ohio State. Number 21, tied for number 21, Minnesota. Number 19, Northwestern. Number 17, Michigan State. Number 16, Michigan. Number 15, Illinois. Number 14, Rutgers. And number 10, Iowa. And number 6, Wisconsin. All in the top 25. I would say that it could be pretty difficult to call this from the beginning, but what are the odds that either Rutgers or Northwestern wins the Big Ten?
I have not seen either play, but I will base this on that Rutgers schedule will catch up to them because they're going to have to play all those teams that you mentioned in the top 25. Their schedule catches up to them. I think Northwestern, though, with a track record of being a bigger and better, smaller, thing that you think of Illinois, you think of Wisconsin, you think of Michigan State, you think of Ohio State. Well, Northwestern is talented. They can do damage. I give them an 80% chance. As they're starting off hot, I have an 80% chance of them winning the Big Ten.
That Northwestern wins the Big Ten.
I'm going to go 80%.
Okay. I went with 0.01%. I think as you said, let's just take a look at the two teams here. So Rutgers is number 14, as I said. They've defeated Maryland, who seems to be at the bottom of the league. Great win versus Illinois, who you probably got to see Illinois play against Duke. What were your quick thoughts on Illinois? I know they have those 2 studs, very good inside.
They're very good inside, and Duke couldn't do anything to even. Yeah, they're very good inside. And they shot well too. I thought they had some good shooters too. They're a good basketball team, Illinois.
Now, and then Rutgers broke into the top 25 with that win against Illinois, and then they went to Ohio State and lost. Now Ohio State is also a very good team. They have a couple streaks here that's going to be tough. They play Iowa on Saturday, which I'd be very interested to see how they do against Garza. I know Rutgers is a perennial, has been pretty good in defensively, so I'd be interested to see what they do against him. 3 days later, they play at Michigan State, and then they play Ohio State again. And then if you look at Northwestern, they actually beat at the time was a number 4 Michigan State at home. They actually beat Indiana and Ohio State, another team who's good. They're actually playing tomorrow, playing Iowa. I think it's too tough. I think it's too tough for either team. I think both probably move back down to the middle of the league. I think you're going to see the Wisconsins, the Illinois, and the Iowas up top. I think they're just too strong. There are scorers for both teams, so including a Boo Buie for Northwestern. So look out for that name. 14 a game, 5 assists, playing very well for Northwestern. So I don't think so, but hey, I'd love to see them jump up there in a strong uh, Big Ten team, Big Ten conference. Absolutely. So for our next little game here that we have, now that we're done with what are the odds, we're going to go to over under. We're just going to throw out a number out there, and then if the situation calls for it, we're going to either say over or under in terms of wins, losses, whatever. So the first one we have here, Joe, going back to the NFL. The number of teams from the AFC North that will be represented in the playoffs, 2.5. Over or under, because they can't have any round numbers, or it'll be a push. Over and under 2.5. So obviously the Bengals are not in the playoffs, but we're looking at the Steelers, who have already clinched, the Ravens, and the Browns. Over under 2.5.
Well, I have under, and the reason I say that is I think the Bengals are going to beat the Ravens this weekend. I think the Bengals have played really well this season. And even without Joe Burrow, or no, Joe Burrow's hurt. Sorry.
Yeah,
Brandon Allen's been playing pretty good too, though. And I don't even know where Brandon Allen's from, like what university he went to. But no, they've had a good job with the receivers. I know Boyd's had a good year. Higgins has had a pretty good year. And, they seem to play decent defense. I have the Steelers in, of course, but they're really average at best right now. They're not playing well. And I can actually see them losing to a low seed. They better turn it on because they're just not playing well. The Browns will get in because the Browns, I think, had a hiccup yesterday. But I go 2. I go Steelers, Browns, and I go under, though, because I don't go anybody else.
Interesting. I think the Ravens do get in. I think that they win. I agree they haven't been as good as they looked last year. Especially Jackson hasn't looked that great. He obviously running the ball, he's been just fine, but I think the question mark is the Browns. Now the Browns are home to the Steelers, who don't necessarily have anything clinched. I believe. I mean, I know they can't get the number 1 seed. The Chiefs have clinched the number 1 seed, so they really be fighting with the Bills for the number 2 seed. The Steelers really haven't been playing that well either. Too much lately. They did have that nice comeback win this past week against the Colts. So Cleveland is home to the Steelers. They lost to the Steelers by a score of 38-7 earlier in the season. Now, for those that don't know, they lost to the Jets this past week, but the Browns had literally no wide receivers. They were all subject to COVID. So they were left. They didn't play, so they had to bring a lot of practice squad guys up, and rely a lot on the run game and tight ends. It just didn't work out. They lost to the Jets. If they can't have those guys play, they're not beating the Steelers. I have it. I still have it over though. I still think I think that the Browns do win that game against the Steelers. Hopefully their guy receivers play. Um
At least
and the
two, though.
team
At least two of them.
yeah, and yeah, that's all they really need because they mostly rely on the run regardless. With Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, which is where I think they need to stay. I think all three teams, obviously the Steelers, I think the Ravens win their game. I think the Browns win their game. The team I think left out, unfortunately, as much as it pains me to say it, I think it's going to be the Miami Dolphins. I think they have to go to, I believe it's to Buffalo, which is basically a must win so long as the Colts beat, I believe it was the Jaguars, right? So, and then at 10-6, the Dolphins will be left out because everyone else will be 11-5. Pains me to say it because they've had a pretty good year, a great year defensively, and kind of mishmashing, throwing running backs in there, throwing receivers in there, switching up to Tua, going back to Fitzpatrick. I really hope they win, but I think they're the team that gets knocked out. Who do you think is the one left out, Joe? Now, again, um, the Dolphins are obviously 10-5. The Browns are 10-5. The Ravens are 10-5. The Colts are 10-5. One of those teams are going to be left out. Any idea?
Well, I think, like I said, I think the Bengals are going to upset the Ravens, so that could help the Dolphins.
Oh
Uh,
well, yeah. So long as you think that, well,
I know it's a long shot, but it could happen. Although the Ravens have more to play for because they get in with a win
right.
probably. So
Mhm.
that's going to be a tough game. Who do the Dolphins play this weekend?
At Buffalo, who's going for the number 2 seed.
Yeah. You're right. I think the Dolphins get left out, but I don't think they get left out because of the situation here. I think they get left out because they can't beat the Bills.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who is going to be a thorn in your side because if they didn't make noise in the playoffs, you're going to have to come out and say, you know what? The Bills are for real.
Yeah. And well, I believe they play the Patriots tonight. If they win that game, they have the tiebreaker over the Steelers for the number 2. So they'll be 12-3 as well, which
Okay.
means both teams, I mean, they'll either be the 2 or the 3. I mean, they're
Not
going to
much of a difference,
play.
right?
They're
Yeah.
both going to play, but
Yeah.
because potentially you would be playing that 3rd seed at
Yeah.
home then.
You're right.
So,
Yeah. The
in the
Dolphins
next
barely
round.
won. The Dolphins barely won the other night. It was a great win. I couldn't believe it. I went to bed with 20 seconds left, and I wake up and I knew
Mhm.
they won. But I mean, let's be honest. The Dolphins have had a really good year, but they're probably not one of the best teams in the AFC, right?
Yeah, yeah. Just very good defensively.
Well, Derek, we're going to go to the other side. The number of teams from the NFC West that will be represented in the playoffs, which we have the Seahawks at 11-4. They play the 49ers this weekend. The LA
Clinched.
Rams are 9-6. They play the Cardinals. And again, the Cardinals then play the Rams. The same thing I just said. So,
Yeah.
what is your view here on the NFC West?
I'm saying over again. I think all three teams, well, the 49ers are left out, but I think all three teams get in. The Rams have not been very good as of late. Jared Goff is supposedly up in the air whether he's going to even play. I think the Cardinals win and clinch it. So right now, the Packers number 1 seed 12-3, Saints 11-4, Seahawks 11-4, Washington the 4 seed 6-9, the Buccaneers 10-5, and then it's number 6 is Rams 9-6. So it really comes down to the Rams, the Bears, and the Cardinals. The Bears play Green Bay, and Green Bay still has not clinched the number 1 seed and the bye. So
Doesn't
they
matter what
have
the game is
something.
either. Yeah, it doesn't even matter where the game is because
Not really. No.
it's going to be cold, and both teams
Right.
are used to it, right? So I want to throw that out there.
It's at Chicago, but like you said, it doesn't much matter. There's not many fans that are going to be there. It's going to be cold. It's going to be nasty. Um, I don't. The Packers are not going to let the Bears get into the playoffs, and I think they beat the Bears, and the Cardinals win, which puts the Bears at 8-8, the Rams and the Cardinals both at 9-7, both get in as the number 6 and the 7 seeds. What do you think, Joe? Over under 2? What was it? Over under 2.5? Right.
Right. It's gonna be. I'm gonna go take the over 2. Packers don't lose to the Bears, and even if they do, they're still getting in as the 1 seed. Right. The Seahawks will be the 2. Yeah, Seahawks will be the 2 seed, and I actually have the Cardinals. I have the Cardinals beating the Rams. I just think it's kind of a must win for Arizona. They've had games where they should have won. I like Kyler Murray more than Jared Goff. And if Jared Goff doesn't play, no way they beat the Cardinals. The Cardinals are too explosive. They really can throw the ball down the field. Then they got Kenyon Drake, who runs the ball well. And a pretty decent defense. I think the Cardinals definitely get in. I think they pull an upset here. And I do. I think Packers, Seahawks, Cardinals. Yep.
Now it is at Los Angeles.
SoFi Stadium.
If the Cardinals get in, I mean it now it is a must win. They don't have the tiebreaker against the Bears.
Go tomorrow, so Derek.
They need to win. If they win, they are a scary team. I would not want to face a team with Kyler Murray, Kenyon Drake, DeAndre Hopkins, Larry Fitzgerald, Patrick Peterson. Yeah, I do not want to face that team. But
dangerous. You're right.
I think the Cardinals go through. We seem to both think that all 3 teams are going in, and then the poor 49ers, they just dealt with a lot of unhealthy players this season. Which brings us back to baseball. Another big trade that happened earlier in the week was Josh Bell, the first baseman for the Pittsburgh Pirates, is now going to be a member of the Washington Nationals. Our over-under, Joe, is 35. The number of home runs that Josh Bell hits in his first season for the Washington Nationals.
I thought about this, and I wanted to say over badly because I know how powerful he is. But he's not going to be facing the National League Central pitching anymore. He's going to be facing guys like Jacob deGrom, Noah Syndergaard, Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler, and then even in Miami, Sixto Sanchez, and, whoever else they're going to throw out there because I'm not sure of the rotation right now. But the Braves even have really good pitchers. We know that, how young they are and good arms. I have him at 28. I kind of did like a football thing with this. I said, well, I'm not going to give him a touchdown. I'm not going to give 2 touchdowns. But I'm going to give him a couple of touchdowns. Yeah, no. Josh Bell hits really well from the left side, but he's also a switch hitter, so not so great from the right side. But this is a guy, Derek, that did hit 35 home runs a couple of years ago. So he could hit 40. I mean, he could do it, but we're going to see how many games are played, too. That's my other thing. What's the game situation?
True.
DH. Is there going to be a DH in the National League? Big thing. He doesn't have to play first base every day. Good move by Washington though. I'm a little scared. I'm not gonna lie. He's a good hitter. He's a good hitter.
I mean, so he broke out in 2017 when he had 26 homers for the Pirates. Then he had a down year with 12, and 2019 he had 37. That's where we get the 35 number from. And then he had 8 this past season. I don't know. That would probably equate to 20 something, high 20 or low 20, something like that. If they played the full season, I think it's lower. I think that's a high number. But I would not be shocked if he gets to about 30, because who the heck did he have backing him up in or behind him in Pittsburgh, Joe?
Well, he had
Absolutely
Marte.
nobody.
Well, Marte led off, so that's not fair.
Right.
You're right. And then they had what's his name there, Polanco, Jorge Polanco,
who can't stay healthy.
But right, so he can't stay on the field. So it's not like Andrew McCutchen was there. Now you come to a team with Trey Turner, who's very underrated, I might add, and you have Juan Soto, who might end up being one of the best players Washington ever sees. They're still one bat away. They're still one bat and one arm away. So I'm still not to the edge of my seat yet, but Washington is probably right now the second best team in the East, or maybe third, if you want to argue that. I mean,
Now I don't know what the lineup's going to be, but I would think it's some form of Turner and Soto probably hitting third and Josh Bell cleaning up. Most of the time, there is going to be somebody on base, so you're not going to be able to walk him or anything. So he's going to get his ABs. Now I don't. Maybe you know a little more than me, but 66 walks in 2017, 77 in 2018, 74. Are those high numbers?
I mean, usually they say I think walks need to be over 100 just because he probably doesn't have the best eye. I've watched him hit. Listen, he can hit a baseball. You can go to YouTube and just watch a clip. Also while you're watching the Timeout Show with Derek and Joe. But you can just watch a video of Derek Bell Josh Bell, and really he can hit the ball. But here's my other thing. When we're talking about the NFL, the Super Bowl is coming up in the second week of February. My point to that is we're gonna not have anything else to talk about but college basketball. So you can bet, our audience can bet that baseball will come into full focus because then pitchers and catchers there report a week after February 7th. So, but anyway, no, Josh Bell, good move, and like you said, he'll walk some, but he's going to hit a lot of home runs in Nationals Park.
But a little under than 35, we both think.
Yeah, 28, I said, yep. Well, Derek, we're going back to the hardwood in the NBA, and we want to know the seed of the Brooklyn Nets going to the playoffs. Where do we think they're going to be seeded? And then how far would they go? And then who else could be a favorite in the NBA's eastern part of the conferences?
So right, over under 1.5 is the seed for the Brooklyn Nets. Man, I struggled with this because now I know more about the East than I do the West, strictly because they're on TV more that I can see. You don't see the Clippers and the Lakers don't come on till 10 o'clock. So, teams to look out for in the East. The 70, I think I actually like this 76ers team more than last year's, even though last year's was probably more talented, which is very interesting. But I think I just think they seem to gel, and you have your shooter with Steph Curry. Obviously Simmons is the driver, and Embiid down low and the big rebounder, and then Green can play great defense on the wings and shoot the three. Everyone is good at something different. I didn't even mention Tobias Harris, who's maybe one of their better players. I don't think they have a ton of depth on the bench. I think that's where they struggle a little bit. We'll be interested to see how Dwight Howard plays this year, but I think that's someone who could give the Nets a run. Obviously the Heat, they made it to the championship last year. I didn't love the Heat, but I still don't love the Heat, but they have obviously and Spoelstra has to go down as one of the better coaches ever, because he just wins. He wins games. I don't see someone like the Raptors being much of a threat to them. I don't know if the Celtics can reach that level. I'm still interested to see if Jason Tatum can be the guy going forward. A couple interesting teams I would throw out there. Washington Wizards. I mean, I'll see them being the top of the league, but with
team.
Westbrook and Beal there, that's a pretty interesting dynamic duo. 1.5, I have them lower because I still think the Bucks win the conference. But I think the Nets may beat them, but I think that Durant is probably going to have to sit quite a bit this year. I'm blanking on the amount of games they're playing. I don't think it's a full season, but I guarantee he's not going to play all the games. So I think it's going to be the Bucks, but I would not be shocked if the Nets still made the NBA Finals.
All right. Right away, you had me with the Sixers because I put him down, and I love Danny Green. I know he's not going to get a lot of points, but he's still he's a leader. He's a veteran. He's a shooter. He's what the Sixers needed. Him and Seth Curry are exactly what this team needed last year. So Morey comes in and says, all right, they're the two guys we want to bring in. I think Seth Curry is married to Doc Rivers' daughter, if I'm not mistaken.
That I don't know.
I think I'm pretty sure I heard it's his father-in-law.
I didn't even mention Doc Rivers. That's another great point. That's bringing in a top head coach. Yeah.
And you said Dwight Howard. They're really loaded. The Sixers. They're scary. They're scary talented. And if Simmons and Embiid can actually unlock each other's talent, because we know they're both good, but either Embiid's lazy or doesn't run or doesn't whatever takes plays off. You know, Simmons is good but doesn't shoot. Like, it's a basketball court. Shoot the basketball. Like, how hard is it? So that's interesting there. But the Nets are really talented with Durant and Irving, as we said. Also, I'm missing the third one. They have the 3 players there. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. Who's the third one?
Spencer Dinwiddie is very good off the bench. I mean, they have people like DeAndre Jordan, who is pretty much going to get double-digit rebounds whenever he goes out there. Shooter and Joe Harris.
Oh, Joe Harris. Okay. Yeah, they're good. I agree with you. Giannis is probably the best player in the NBA. I know people argue LeBron, but Giannis is younger by a few years. He is so long lengthwise. He's so good in the basket, and he can shoot. Are you kidding me? So I think the Bucks and the Nets meet in the Eastern Conference Final, and from there, Sixers aren't far behind. They're still probably missing maybe a piece or two. But over under, I go under like you. I don't think that. No, they're not gonna. It's not gonna. They're gonna be like. I would say the Nets would be like the 3 seed maybe.
Yes. I definitely think that they either get the 2, 3, maybe even 4. I think they'll push to not be the 4, so they don't have to play the Bucks in the semifinals. But they'll get 2 or 3, I think, and they will do just fine. Probably make it to the finals. That's a team I don't want the Celtics playing, but I don't think that they could. I think they got smashed by they'll get smashed by the Nets, honestly. But
we're doing our last part right there. We got the last topic.
Last topic here for our over under. And going back to the hardwood again, this time NCAA. Now Gonzaga has looked far and away the best in they haven't lost yet. But 1.5, the number of losses for Gonzaga heading into the NCAA tournament. So that includes the is it the WAC they're in or the Western Coast Conference?
Yeah, I think that's what it's called.
That includes that tournament as well. But number of losses heading into the tournament for Gonzaga over under 1.5. Joe?
Derek, I'm probably going to regret saying this. I don't want to, I don't have a lot of people in my life that are Gonzaga fans, but I do know that Gonzaga does not play a tough schedule. We talked about that all for our show. I have them losing 2 games, exactly 2 games. They had beaten Kansas, who was number 3. They beat Auburn, unranked. They beat West Virginia, number 9. They beat Iowa, 10 and 23 Virginia. They're their notable wins. I have them losing to St. Mary's the first time they're going to play them. And then I'm going to have them losing to BYU later in the year. I just don't believe in this team because we said it earlier. They're not as powerful as a really good Duke team when they're good, or North Carolina, or a Kansas, or a Kentucky. They don't get the players that are, these teams get. But I will give them credit. Mark Few is a great coach. He gets a lot out of his talent, and somehow they don't schedule a lot of non-conference games, but they win them, Derek. They win them. They just beat Iowa early in the year, right? They just beat Carson, Iowa. So they do win big games, but when was the last time that Gonzaga won a national championship? I can't answer that. It hasn't been lately.
Never.
2. Derek, I'm going to.
They've never won. Honestly, Joe, I think this is a different team. I think that's normally the case for Gonzaga, but I think this year is a little different. I got to see a couple of their games earlier in the season. I hope to see them a couple more times, but I don't know if I will because they're on the West Coast and they'll never be on at a reasonable hour. But Corey Kispert and Drew Timme both averaging over 21 a game, and Jalen Suggs, who is a guy who handles the ball for them, guard, very good talent, a top recruit that they brought in, which is not something you usually see at Gonzaga. That's why I think it's a little different this year.
Big time players.
The 1.5 matters if they reschedule the game against Baylor, which got canceled, who is currently the number 2 team. If they reschedule, I think it's a good chance that they're over 1.5. If they don't, which is they probably won't, honestly, if they're going into their schedules now or their conferences now, I think they're just going to stay with it. They're not going to reschedule anything. But you mentioned it. BYU and St. Mary's seem to be the teams that give them the most trouble. I don't know a ton about the West Coast Conference. Other teams, Santa Clara, Portland, both with 6 wins. But again, I don't know how good those teams are. But this Gonzaga team puts up points. I think there will be somewhere that they lose a game, and that's not always a bad thing, right? You don't like to go into the big tournament without losing, without knowing what it is to lose a game.
Right.
It'll probably be, like you said, out of St. Mary's, out of BYU, maybe in the tournament, in the West Coast Conference tournament, they lose a game there. Those are always just a different atmosphere and playing game after game, day after day. But I think this Gonzaga team is different. I think that they make a legitimate run, provided I really hope we have one, an NCAA tournament, but provided we have one, I think that they're really gonna pull through this year. Just as a side note, past 5 years, past 4 years, I have 17-1, 17-1, 16-0, and 15-1. Those are their conference records. So they always seem to lose one game at least. And sometimes it's just a matter of playing a back-to-back games or 2 road games or 3 road games in a row. You have an injury. COVID. It's COVID. It's very difficult to get out of there with no losses. But so that was a little bit of what are the odds and over under. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. we're going to have a new episode come out later in the week after New Year's, so everyone gets to enjoy their new year. Again, we hope everyone had a safe and happy Christmas, and everyone has a happy and safe new year as well. Joe, any last thoughts?
No, just for all you baseball fans, I'll keep on saying it. Watch Twitter, watch MLB Network over the next couple weeks, because things are really happening now. San Diego's making things fired up, and now we got the Cubs are talking about stuff. So, and I would not put it past bigger teams that can win this year to start doing some things. And so in the NFL, it's gonna be a great weekend of football, and some college games already. Of course, you got New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and my Irish playing Alabama and Texas. So, not expecting too much, but just hoping they show up a little better than they did against Clemson.
Yeah.
Other than that,
go ahead.
Yeah, just looking forward to hopefully catching some NBA games as the fantasy league's underway, of course, and excited I won my first week. So now I have a match with my brother now. So it'll be fun for bragging rights, at least to start off with second week here. But no, yeah, I hope everybody enjoys their new year, and please be safe and spend time with your family and friends.
And now we're probably going to be pretty NFL heavy for the next few weeks, at least, because playoffs will start next week, and we'll probably be talking about the wild card round, the divisional round, and everything, at least to start, maybe not the whole show, but it'll be a lot of NFL. So we thought we would throw out some different topics this week to just before we get started on that. But yes, thank you very much for listening. We hope everyone enjoyed, and we hope you have a very safe and happy, healthy 2021. That's a very different statement nowadays than it is normally. Normally you say it, but now we really want to feel it. So we hope everyone does. And but for Joe Azalina, I am Derek Gano. Follow us everywhere: YouTube, podcast platforms, Facebook. Send us an email. Don't forget to send us an email if you want to have your question answered on the show. Timeout Derek and Joe at gmail.com. But as always, thank you for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us here at Timeout. Stay safe. God bless. Take care.